Welcome to the City Lifestyle Podcast, Vegas edition, where we're covering the people, the places, and the events that make up our community. We're glad you're here. Hi, everyone. I'm Crissie Bown, owner of Henderson City Lifestyle magazine, and I'm here with
Chad Jeffry with South Vegas City Lifestyle.
So we back, y'all. It's been a minute, but
it has
been a few months now, I think. So
yeah, I think the last one was in March.
The people have spoken. They want more. So.
Unfortunately, yes, they have.
But today's topic is a good one for everybody who's been in the advertising space. So we talk about this all the time. We get so excited. We have everything planned out. We're ready to launch this campaign. We, kick the campaign off and then crickets.
Yep.
So, when you have that client that comes to you and is like, Chad, I just launched this campaign. I'm so excited for it. I was waiting for people to blow the doors down. What's something that you might tell a client who's having that cold feet after that first month where they might not have heard of anything?
I mean, I think it comes down to the different tactics that are deployed, right? Like with us specifically in the magazines, it takes time. Mm-hmm. So what is the average right now? 8 to 11 touch points on a business before someone wants to actually spend money with them. So when we're having clients that are saying 1, 2, 3 months in, it's like, what is the message? What's going on? But also just like, we need to be patient. Like we need people to understand, 1, you're here, 2, what you offer, and 3, why they should actually pick and choose you to spend money with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that we both try to be as transparent as possible with these clients when we meet with them. And I know, for myself and for you as well, I've actually given the advice in the past to clients, whether it's with the magazine or, in other media spaces. If you're not willing to commit to at least 12 months of doing something, then hold tight, hold the phone until you actually can commit to that 12-month timeline. Because to your point, if it's going to take somebody, 7, 8 to 11 times of seeing something, you're going to need that repetition for them to actually take in the message. I mean, I could tell you something 5 times on the phone and you still might not remember it after our phone conversation.
I might not be listening. That might be the problem.
Yeah, it might be the zoning out. Yeah. But I mean, so if a client is having that moment where they're just like, what did I do? What am I, is this actually going to work? What's the best piece of advice that you can give them?
I think it really comes down to, again, just like how a customer is going to find them and spend money. So almost working backwards, right? Mm-hmm. So we have various industries because we work with everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like financial planners, home improvement, you name it. Like there's stuff out there. Beauty. Is it more of a emergency, like an HVAC plumbing type setup, or is it someone that's going to completely redo their kitchen, spend over $100,000 on something like this? Like, that's going to take time, right? They're going to look for ideas. They're going to look for inspiration. They're going to be evaluating different options. They're going to be living in their space and then say like, hey, this isn't working anymore. So when we're working with clients, it's really, again, educating them on, are we going after the right audience? And then how many times do we need to touch them before they spend money? Mm-hmm. So when we're working with clients, I think it really goes back to like, how is it working for them now? Mm-hmm. What are they doing now? Like, where are they seeing people come from? But also asking those questions of, how long did that person take in this process of like the consumer journey, if you will, before they reached out to them? Mm-hmm. I don't think any of our clients are, throughout my entire history, have asked that question, right? It's like, how long have you been planning this project? Mm-hmm. And that's something where when we get in there and start having this conversation of, okay, you're 2 months in and you haven't had like the doors blown off, why is that? And what should we be doing to set that expectation properly? Mm-hmm.
And I think the other thing of it is the sales cycle, like the actual product or service that they're offering. What is that sales cycle for them? How long? Like, for example, it's different if it's saying something like, hey, come check out our restaurant, come try us out for dinner, versus, to your point, if it's somebody in the, the home category where it's like, let's remodel the kitchen. What does that sales cycle look like for the consumer? In terms of how frequently they're actually going to need this product or service. What does that look like? Because if it is something where it's like, let's remodel the kitchen or let's buy a new car or, buy a house or something like that, not everybody's going to be in the market for that product or service at that time. So I feel like for those campaigns, from a client standpoint, we also have to look at it from a realistic basis of, they may not need your service tomorrow. Yeah. But when that time comes, you want to be that first person that they're going to think of because they've already seen you all this time leading up to that point. Yeah. And I know clients can get frustrated because it's like, well, I need customers tomorrow. And it's like, of course, but at the same point in time, like, if they don't know that you're there at all, then how are they ever going to find you? So I think for some of those longer sales cycle products, that can also just stretch out that timeline a little bit longer, and clients have to go into the marketing campaign knowing like, you may not get the doors blown off tomorrow. It may take 6 months. It might take a year. Like, you know, you need to give it the time to build, you know, and allow the consumers to reach that point in their own cycle where they're going to need your product or service. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So let's look at our histories, right? So like I come from a very strong like digital marketing background. You come from broadcast. So when you're having the conversations now through City Lifestyle and Henderson City Lifestyle, what sort of information are you taking from your previous job? Because that was more impression based. Like you're reaching the masses with broadcast. Like, talk about that. Like, how are you taking that information and history that you know from, what is it, over a decade here in town?
That makes me sound like a million years old, but yes,
well, when you start when you're what, like fresh out of college? Like,
yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, listen, we're old, but we're not that old. Yeah. But yeah, I think, you know, the process is similar. Like, no matter what medium you're using, it's going to take that time to build. It's going to take that repetition. It's going to take people seeing it on a consistent basis before you're going to see results in any platform. But I think for us now with the magazines, it's a little bit different because we really are going after a much more niche audience base with the magazines than I was in the broadcast space. So I have clients that I worked with in broadcast that I love, and I'm still, of course, you know me, I'm still talking to them. I still love them. But, you know, I've had to have some conversations where it's like the magazine might not be the best fit based on who we're targeting. Because with the magazine, we're going after that affluent audience base of people. So, you know, we have a very targeted space that we're distributing to. We're really looking for more of the luxury audience base with the magazines. So I think that comes into it as well in terms of like, you know, is this magazine going to be the right fit based on who we're targeting or who you're trying to target for your business? Yeah. And, you know, we're pretty transparent. Like, we aren't for everybody, you know, the same way as like us as people aren't for everybody, like the magazine's not for everybody. We want to make sure that the audience are aligning, the audience that the clients are going after aligns with who the magazine is being distributed to. And then we need to make sure that there's enough repetition and frequency to where they're going to be able to take the message in, absorb it, and then react to it. You know, I had someone say to me recently, like, oh, I never pay attention to the ads. I don't pay attention to any of those things. I just ignore them. I just block them out. And that always makes me laugh because have you ever seen The Devil Wears Prada? I
mean, should I admit it?
I mean, you should. It's a great movie. And if you haven't, then you should watch it again because it's amazing.
Yes, I've seen it.
And I appreciate you admitting that you've seen that movie. But there's this point in the movie where Meryl Streep's character, you know, kind of has this moment with Anne Hathaway's character when she says, I don't care about fashion. And this scene is so perfect for the advertising space too, because she's basically kind of dismissing the fashion industry, saying like, I don't care about it. Like, I don't pay attention to it. Like, whatever, you know? And it's the same way as people are saying, like, I don't pay attention to the ads. And like, I want to tell everybody when they say that, it's like, whether you realize it or not, you're being sold every single day. Yeah. And across all different platforms. Exactly.
Like billboards, everything that's unique here, like those trucks that drive by, like, it's insane. You literally can't turn around without seeing like 20 ads at a time.
It's true. And I mean, we're used to being entertained here in Las Vegas. So of course we want to be like, you know, we're used to that, you know, just that abundance of information coming at us at once. But I think, you know, it's the same way with the ads in the sense of like people can say that they don't pay attention or that they're not watching or they block them out or whatever. But whether it be on social media, a magazine, a billboard, TV, radio, you know, any platform, people are selling you all the time. And so when they say like, oh, I ignore those things and whatever, it's like, okay, look around your house. Like, look around the room you're sitting in right now. And I guarantee you that one of the products that's on your desk or on your, you know, whatever, in your room is something that you were sold on, whether you realize it or not, you know? And it's funny because sometimes we don't even realize that we're taking in these messages because it's so subconscious. But at the same point, like, if you were to ask, you know, 20 people that live in Las Vegas and have for a decade or longer, as you have like put me on blast for.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, then I would put money on the fact that for some of the larger advertisers in this market, the majority of them could probably repeat phone numbers for some of the major advertisers, are familiar with these brands.
Hairstyles of certain like injury attorneys.
Everybody. Yeah. Okay. Hey. But the point is that, whether you realize it or not, you're taking in these messages. And so that's why I love the Devil Wears Prada, because she's dismissing fashion in the same way as people dismiss the ads. But at the same point in time, the majority of the things that you have purchased, whether you realize it or not, are because of ads.
Yeah.
And those ads have influenced either you or someone in your circle of influence who has enticed you to buy that product or service. So it just makes me laugh. But back to the frequency of it, the reason why people are able to remember these things subconsciously is because they've been hit with that message so many times.
Yeah.
They don't even think about it anymore.
So you actually do a really good job of sitting down with your clients when they come on and building out that strategy, right? So
Yep.
with our partnerships, like they get the ad they're investing in, we figure out editorial for them, we cross-promote on social.
Mm-hmm.
Walk me through that process where, again, you mentioned we're going to a very specific audience.
Yep.
But a reader is going to see this business more than 12 times a year if we're doing all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you walk them through, this is the strategy we're going to do for this audience? Like, how do we build out that messaging for an ad itself?
Well, I think it starts with having a really solid understanding of what those clients' goals are, what benefits that their product or service provides to the consumer. Because really, like, all advertising is at its core is connecting people with a product or service. That's it.
Yeah.
And you can get very granular and analytical and into the weeds, which I know you love.
I will geek out on it.
I will not.
Yeah, that's why we're yin and yang over here. Like, we balance each other.
I don't want it. You can go through all the Excel sheets and all the data that you want.
Give me Google Analytics. Let's go.
Take it, please. But for me, it's like, and I'll be the first to say, like, I'm never going to be that analytical person. I understand one thing in life, and that is people. That's it. But that's what helps in advertising, because all you're doing is trying to find what that user benefit is that's going to improve their quality of life or make their life easier. So I think the whole process with strategy starts with that. What is the unique product or service that's going to either make somebody's life easier, benefit them in some way, shape, or form, or give them some piece of information that they may not have known before. And so you start with that, and then make sure that the audience is obviously correct. But in terms of how I would build out a strategy, it's like, okay, let's look at what we know the pillars are going to be throughout the course of this year.
Yeah.
If you know that, like, you're typically going to be just humming along in the summertime because you're an HVAC company, and it's going to be crickets come October or March, the 2 months of the year where we can actually, leave our windows open in Las Vegas, then that you're going to want to kind of cater your marketing campaign around the seasonality of that business. So I always look at the pillars first, like the seasonality of the business, major pillars like, anniversaries, specials, new products or things like that are launching. Like, how do we want to build up to those things? And then we'll look at the messaging and determine during these different times of the year, how do we want to cater that message so that it's really resonating with how people are feeling in that moment in time. And I say that knowing that things can change, right? Like, things can change overnight and you might have to pivot that message. And if you do, okay. But at least having a roadmap going into the next 12 months, 12-month cycle of saying, all right, this is going to be our baseline of our campaign. These are the months where we know we've got to build towards either like an event or a product launch or whatever that looks like. So we're going to, ramp things up to, whether it be through the ad or in our magazines, we've got some other features that we can use, including like business monthly announcements or event listings if there's like a grand opening or an anniversary party or something like that. Like using those different elements of the magazine to be able to kind of highlight those different features. So, I guess it's a very long answer, but I think for us, we have the unique ability to use these different features within the magazine to help promote the same underlying message.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, I agree. I normally go to most of my clients with messages of who they are, what they do, why they do it, right?
Yeah.
So why they do it could be customer testimonials, those kind of things. But you have an audience that we agreed like is a good fit for you. And now you get to speak to them multiple times a year because we audit our readership. Like we know it's insane. We get direct feedback from it. So as we're going through it, if there's a client that says, hey, this isn't working for us, it's going back to that message and figuring out like, okay, what are you putting in the ad? Are we giving them a call to action? Is there something there? Like, what is that message we're putting out there? But again, like looking at that cycle again, like, do you need more than 10 touch points a year? Can you like shorten that based on a message? Like, say, call us for a consultation. Because I think like with how many different businesses we work with, everything from an individual franchise, one location covers like maybe a zip code or two, to multi-location medical offices that are running centralized scheduling, those are going to be completely different, right? So the medical office that has multiple offices may just need more of the branding aspect. The one location is going to need to be, hey, come here for this reason. And I think that's where, like, as we dive into a lot of our clients, like, we can really help educate them on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think, you know, a lot of times there is a huge educational element to some of these products and services that we work with. And that's another thing I've seen a lot too, where it's like people will assume that just by their name or whatever, that people will automatically know exactly what they offer. And it could be totally different than that, you know? So having that informational piece of it, I think, is big too. So if somebody were to say like, hey, I really only I want to try the magazine. I love this, but I only want to do it for 3 months. What would your response be?
I would ask them, what are they trying to achieve in that 3 months? Like, how can we do that? So really, like, what is the goal for the 3 months? What are you expecting out of it? And how do we back out of that? Because the way our program and like our advertising partnerships work, I can't do 90% of what we offer in that time. So it's almost educating them on why we need that repetition, why we need the time. And like, again, if someone gets one magazine and they flip through it really quick, was that ad powerful enough to stop them, see the brand, understand what's going on? Or 3 months down the line, are they on Google and now they're clicking on that ad because they saw our ad, you know? So it's like this balance of how do we go about like meeting client expectations, but still trying to be that professional source for them to say, I don't want to just take your money. Like, I want it to be successful, right? What about you?
Well, actually, really quick, going back to that meeting client expectations, I mean, how do you go about that, having that conversation with a new client? Like, if they're saying, like, well, how many calls can I get? Or what should I expect from this? Like, what's a typical response that you would give to somebody if they ask, like, you know, what should I expect from this campaign?
Well, part of our process is actually doing that investigation and understanding, one, are they a good fit? Can we even help them, right? So when we're asking about goals and challenges, that's probably already coming up before we're even moving into introducing City Lifestyle, how we work, how all the different pieces work together. But based on that, a lot of times it comes to, we need more patients, clients, et cetera. And then from there, understanding the client value, right? So we make sizing recommendations, package recommendations, but we know our content is killer. So if we're able to write an article about them and you've got tens of thousands of eyeballs reading this, it's going on social, it's online for SEO purposes, do we not think we can drive people in with that content?
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because I think a lot of times people think, of course, the magazine is the bread and butter of what we do, but there's also those other elements that come into it. So talk a little bit about some of the other elements that come along with the partnership with us.
Yeah, so I mean, you get your profile on citylifestyle.com. I just found out we have over 1.1 million visitors, page views, over the past 12 months. So like the content is being looked at. People are looking through the different pages, those kind of things. Over 44,000 unique visitors. So looking at those numbers, like we know nationally, like there is a lot of people looking at it. But then we use our own distribution model. So like we each have our own social channels. Like I've got mine, you have yours. We're pushing this content
Follow us if you're not already.
There you go. Like pushing that content out, right? So how do we continue to grow those channels to reach more of the masses where the hard copy is going to our selected houses, right? So looking at all these different pieces, it's a really, like we've been told, a complete 360 like comprehensive program where we have all these different elements to help these businesses really get their message out there, help them craft that message, and make sure that, again, it's resonating with the audiences we're hitting.
And I think that ties into that repetition factor too. It's like, you know, they're seeing it in the magazine, then they're going to see it on the website, then they're going to see it on the social. And it's like, you know, it's a multi-pronged approach at the end of the day, which just accomplishes that same goal of that repetition that we've been talking about this whole time. And I think that a lot of times clients they'll get nervous. And I've seen this so many times where it's like, not just with the magazine, but just in general, in media over the last decade. People will get cold feet and they'll pull the trigger on a campaign right as it's about to gain traction. You know, it's like if it's going to take at least 6 months to 12 months of, you know, repetition for them to actually start seeing that return on their investment, you know, and somebody pulls that trigger at 3 or 4 months, it just kills me because it's like you're about to. It's about to go, you know. You just need to give it a little bit more time. Just chill.
So where are we at for you? Month 7 right now? Since you took over Henderson?
Yeah, month 7. Yeah.
So do you have any like client testimonials based on this where it's like, hey, you were having this conversation of it's not working, and then literally like the next day they like get phone calls?
I mean, yeah, and I obviously, I literally just had an email this week. I was having a conversation with a client who had been in the magazine, not for the entire duration of the time that I've owned it, but I think they launched in, March. And now we're sitting here, we just did our June issue. And there was, you know, after that first month, it was a little quiet, they were a little nervous. But again, it's a new brand with a new audience. It takes that time to build. And then literally this week, I got an email saying like, we just got 2 leads. I'm like, yes. Yeah. And that's how it starts. You know, you get those first couple trickles and then you start to see that return. And it really does come back to that consistency play of the repetition that we've been talking about. Yeah. So, you know, I guess for anybody who's doing a campaign, my best piece of advice would be, again, plan for 12 months. I guess step 1, before we even get to that, step 1, build a marketing budget into your business strategy, because if you don't have a marketing budget, you're basically like opening the doors and hoping that people will come and find you. Like they need to know that you're there. So build in a marketing budget into your business strategy. But then from there, you know, plan to implement a marketing campaign that's at least 12 months or longer. Yeah. And if you can't do 12 months or longer, then do some grassroots stuff in the meantime. That doesn't mean just like sit and wait. Like there's guerrilla marketing efforts that you can do in the meantime, but you're going to need that consistency to really see the return on your investment. Yeah.
I mean, I've had clients on their first ad, had people come in, said they saw it in the magazine.
Yep.
Ace Law Group, my personal injury attorney partner, 2 multi-million-dollar case leads, called, said they saw it in the magazine.
That's awesome.
They called and told me. It's like, this is where it comes in, right? Like they've been one of my founding partners, so this was about 2 years into their program, and now it's like those big, larger cases are popping up. I mean, it's really sitting at like, okay, how do we go about putting this message in, right? And like, I completely agree with what you're saying, because as hard as it is, like we just heard the Sundry closed, right?
Yes.
In the Southwest, so
which is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
That place was so cool.
I know, but like as you read down the comments from like the RJ, the social media, those kind of things, it was like 1, price point, and 2, like not a lot of marketing to the locals. Like this is in the Southwest, it's in my territory, like it's out there. Yeah. It's like, who all knew that it was even there? Yeah. Unless you're like driving by or like tuned into the food talk here in town. Like it's one of those things where we've been here long enough, we've been working with these businesses. It breaks my heart to drive by and like see those places closed when
I know.
Like we've reached out to them. It's like, hey, let's do some content on you, like food and drink issue, no response.
Yeah. I had a client that I called on way back in the beginning when I very first took over the magazine. So January of this year, again, we're sitting here in June, and, you know, built out some ideas for them, put together a strategy. And at the time they were having some challenges, you know, and they were like, well, we don't feel like we're comfortable allocating funding to this right now. And sure enough, in May, I reached out just to say, how's everything going? You know, want to check in, all the things. And she said to me, she's like, we're actually going to be closing our doors next week. So sad, yeah. And I agree with you. It breaks my heart because we're business owners too. And our whole mission with these magazines is to help businesses grow, help, you know, be beacons of joy and positivity in the community with our content, but also to help these businesses grow. Like the way I look at this, if somebody signs up as a partner with the magazine, like we are walking arm in arm together, like building this thing, you know, like we're building your brand, we're building the magazine. And I feel like, you know, it's just hard to see. I never want to see anybody's business go under like that. And she said, she's like, we should have done something with you. And I was like, of course, still went over and gave a hug because I was like, I felt terrible.
I mean, even not us, though. Like we'll talk with businesses that do no marketing. And then all of a sudden you drive by and like the sign's gone off the wall.
Yeah.
And it, like, I will sit there and be like, okay, you may not be a good fit. You may not want to buy like what we're offering.
But you need to do something.
You need to do something.
Yeah, you got to do something. So, all right, final thoughts on the need for repetition in your advertising campaign.
I think in this town specifically, in Las Vegas, there is so much noise, so much noise. There's a lot of competition, a lot of businesses going after the same audience. Like our town is exploding in growth, right?
Yeah.
And the Southwest where I'm at, like exploding in growth, new buildings going up all the time. Just found out like we have the highest concentration of wealth. I'm not going to throw that at Henderson a little bit over here. RJ
You're not
article.
going to top Hendy.
But it is like the people here, our locals specifically, need to know businesses exist. They're not going to follow you on social media unless they know you exist. So all these different branding elements that are out there, whether it's billboard, radio, TV, us, like there's all these options. They need to explore them, period. And they need to start putting messaging out on why they're there, how they're going to help people, just like you said, and keep it consistent, even if it's minimal, right? Like have something out there for new people to find you and potentially come in.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Yeah.
I think to your exact point of the number of people that are moving here on, an annual basis right now, that need to be in front of people is stronger than ever right now. So you have to have some kind of a message, and I agree with you. If we're not the right fit, look at some of these other avenues that are, and we'll be honest with you if we're not the right fit for you too. Like the last thing we want is to partner with somebody that we can't help. That would make us feel terrible.
I did that this week. I was like, I don't know if I can help you based on what you want to do.
Yeah,
like the goals and alignment didn't work for us.
Yeah, and if it's not the right fit, we'll be the first to say it. So I completely agree. The need to be out there on a consistent basis is stronger than ever. And however we can help do that, we'll always try. So. Well, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Sit Downs with City Lifestyle Vegas Edition, and we hope to see you again soon.